decades, role-playing games have transported us to worlds beyond imagination. They have allowed us to become kings and mercenaries, dragon slayers and monster hunters, chosen heroes and ordinary people caught in extraordinary events. They have taken us from the war-torn fields of medieval Bohemia to the frozen peaks of Skyrim, from the haunting lands between to the bustling streets of Midgar, from the radioactive deserts of New Vegas to the stars themselves. Hello, and welcome to Nerdy Boys. And here in this video, we're going to talk about 10 games that really made a mark and changed the genre in so many ways. First up is Dragon Quest III. Before RPGs became the giant genre we all know today, Dragon Quest was basically writing the rulebook. Dragon Quest III was one of the first games to really nail that feeling of going on a huge adventure with your own custom party. You would recruit characters, choose their classes, explore towns and dungeons, and slowly uncover a world that felt much longer than anything players had experienced at the time. A lot of mechanics we now think of as standard in JRPGs, party building, job systems, and epic force-saving stories were either introduced here or perfected to the point that they became the blueprint for the genre. And honestly, without Dragon Quest, there is a very real chance that games like Final Fantasy would look completely different today. It may seem simple now, but this is one of the true founding pillars of the role-playing games that we know. Next up, we have Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger is one of those games that people don't just like, they genuinely treasure. And once you play it, it's easy to see why. This was a collaboration between some of the biggest names in RPG history, and somehow they created something that still feels almost perfectly designed even decades later. The story takes you across different eras of time, from prehistoric ages to ruined futures, and everything you do can affect how the world turns out. The pacing is fantastic, the music is unforgettable, and there's basically no wasted content. It also introduced multiple endings and seamless battles at a time when those ideas felt incredibly fresh. Even now, Chrono Trigger is still brought up whenever people talk about the greatest RPGs ever made. And honestly, it deserves every bit of that praise. At number 8, we have one of the best games ever, Mass Effect 2. Mass Effect 2 is the kind of RPG that makes you care deeply about your crew. At first, it seems like a big sci-fi adventure, but before long you realize you're building relationship with some of the most memorable characters in gaming history. Every squad member has their own story, their own baggage, and their own reasons for joining you. And then it all builds to this suicide mission, which is still one of the best finales in any game. If you didn't prepare properly, if you ignore your teammates or made the wrong decisions, people you cared about could actually die. That's what made Mass Effect 2 so special. Your choices weren't just cosmetics, they had real emotional consequences. It showed that RPGs could be cinematic, action-packed, and still deeply personal. Next, at number 7, we have Fallout New Vegas. Fallout New Vegas is one of those games that gives you an almost ridiculous amount of freedom. You wake up in a desert after being left for dead, and from there the game basically says, alright, let's see what kind of person do you want to be. What makes New Vegas so beloved is its writing. Every faction has a strength and flaws. Every decision feels meaningful, and almost every quest can be solved in multiple ways. You can talk your way through problems, betray everyone, or try to build a better future, if you can decide what even that looks like. There are very few RPGs where your choices feel this significant. Even years later, fans still point to New Vegas as one of the best examples of what true role-playing looks like. Number 6, we have the Skyrim. Skyrim is the kind of game where you sit down to complete one quest and somehow look up 6 hours later wondering where the time went. That's the magic of it. From the moment you escape Helgen, the world opens up and you can pretty much do whatever you want. Hunt dragons, join guilds, become a thief, a mage, an assassin, or ignore the main story completely and just wander. And honestly, that sense of freedom was mind-blowing for a lot of players. Like you get to hunt a dragon just for a sport. Like no quests or anything. One day you wake up and decide, hey, I'm gonna go hunt a dragon. And also add one of the biggest modding communities in gaming history, which these mods make it look like it came out yesterday, and it's easy to see why Skyrim has remained relevant for well over a decade. It wasn't just a hit game, it became a cultural phenomenon. Next up, we have Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is proof that you don't need dragons, magic, or world-ending prophecies to make an incredible RPG. Instead, it drops you into a beautifully recreated medieval world and asks you to survive using skill, patience, and your own decisions. The combat is grounded and demanding, your reputation actually matters, and the world feels astonishingly authentic. Every town, every forest, and every conversation pulls you deeper into the experience. What makes this series special is how committed it is to immersion. It wants you to feel like you're truly living in the Middle Ages. You have to actually work to earn money. Yes, you have to work. You can be a blacksmith and sell your stuff to earn money early in the game. Or of course, if you decide that the job wasn't paying the bill, you can always go sneaking around in people's houses. Nevertheless, you'll be amazed of how raw and real it feels. And somehow that realism ends up being just as captivating as any fantasy adventure. At number 4, we have one of the greatest games that has ever been created, Elden Ring. Elden Ring is one of those games that constantly makes you wonder what's over the next hill. You start in Limgrave, see this enormous world stretching out before you, and immediately realize you can go almost anywhere. That sense of discovery is what makes the game so special. Hidden dungeons, secret bosses, legendary weapons, and entire regions are just waiting to be found. And of course, it still has that signature From Software challenge where every victory feels earned. And of course, you're gonna die a lot of times in this game. Like so many times over and over and over. But that doesn't make it less enjoyable. Elden Ring took the Souls formula and expanded it into something truly massive. It didn't just raise the bar for action RPGs. It reminded us how exciting it is when a game trusts players to explore on their own. Now at number 3, we have maybe one of the most impactful games out there, Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy VII is one of the most important RPGs ever made, full stop. For a lot of players, this was the game that proved video games could tell stories that were emotional, cinematic, and genuinely unforgettable. You follow Cloud's strife through a world of corporate greed, environmental collapse, and deeply personal struggles, all while facing one of the gaming's most iconic villains. And if you've played it, you know there are moments in history that stay with you forever. Also, the remake versions of the game are amazing as well. They may not be as iconic as the original, but they are still fun and incredible. And for those out there who don't like turn-based combat, well, you can have it in hack and slash now. Beyond its incredible narrative, Final Fantasy VII introduced millions of people outside Japan to the JRPG genre. Its impact on gaming is almost impossible to overstate. Number 2, we have The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Now this game is an all-time favorite. Witcher 3 is the kind of game that makes you realize just how good storytelling in games can be. You might start out thinking you're here to hunt monsters, but before long you're completely absorbed in a world filled with complicated characters and difficult choices. And the wild part is that even side quests are incredibly well written. Seriously, some of them are more memorable than the main stories of other games. The Bloody Baron quest alone is often considered to be one of the best written storytellings in gaming. I mean, there's a side quest where you have to solve a murder and you get to be Sherlock. Like, where else can you actually find that? The Witcher 3 set a new standard for open world RPGs and showed that bigger worlds don't have to come at the expense of meaningful storytelling. And in number 1 we have Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 3 feels like everything great about RPGs brought together into one incredible package. At first, it looks like a classic computer RPG, but once you start playing, you realize just how absurdly reactive the game is. Want to talk your way out of danger, sneak around, throw someone off a cliff, turn into a bear, romance your companions somehow, all of that is possible. We're talking about a game that makes every fantasy doable. It doesn't feel like you're just playing a game. It's as if you're in it yourself and living in the moment and the world of Baldur's Gate 3. The game gives players an extraordinary amount of freedom, and more importantly, the world actually responds to those choices. What makes Baldur's Gate 3 so special is that it proved there is still a huge audience for deep, complex role-playing games. It didn't just win awards, it reminded the entire industry why RPGs are so important and magical. Whether you prefer the emotional storytelling of Final Fantasy VII, the endless freedom of Elder Scrolls Skyrim, or the incredible role-playing depth of Baldur's Gate 3, one thing is very clear. RPGs continue to show us just how powerful video games can truly be. These worlds, characters, and stories stay with us long after the credits roll, and that's what makes this genre so special. Let me know down in the comments which RPG changed your life and which game you think deserves the number one spot. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stick around for more gaming videos like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next adventure.